In 2023, we get 3 rookies: Oscar Piastri, Logan Sargeant, and Nyck de Vries. Age difference is a big thing in these rookies that we get this year. De Vries is the oldest out of the 3. Logan is the youngest out of the 3. Oscar Piastri's background was that he won F3 and F2 in a row as an Alpine Formula driver in the academy. Ended up actually getting a reserve seat with Alpine for a couple of years now. Was going to take Alonso's spot when he left Aston Martin, but Alpine kind of fumbled the bag, if I might say so myself. They screwed up. They lost him, and Alpine was left without their star driver that they were expecting to do big numbers for them in the upcoming years. He has a lot of testing time. He's been in that 2021 car a lot. He's been in that 2020 car a lot. Really has worked on both those cars a lot and has gained a lot of Formula One experience just from actually being able to be testing cars. Now, if we look at Logan Sargeant was decent in F3, made himself good in F2, finished either 4th or 5th, I could not exactly remember. He has a promising future. He was very consistent in about the middle of the season. He started pretty well, did great in the middle, ended mediocre-ish, but he did what he needed to do, got himself into Formula One, was a Williams Academy driver, ended up actually making a name for himself just from the performances, being consistent, was never really out of the top 10, or if ever during the F2 season, and made a name for himself there. Now, Nyck de Vries, he won F3, but then he won F2 after 3 years of being in F2. That really wasn't enough to finally get him into a Formula One seat. He was in Formula E, is a Formula E champion, and now is finally in Formula One, driving for AlphaTauri. It was rumored he was going to go to either Williams, or some rumors were partly with Haas, some were even with Alpine. It was all over the place. We didn't really know where Nyck de Vries could have landed. But he ended up landing in AlphaTauri, probably speaking with some of the Red Bull guys. They thought, hey, AlphaTauri is a good spot for you. You can be the leader of the team. Show yourself here and see if maybe you can put yourself up in the future. I think Nyck saw that as an opportunity and took it. And that is how we have our 3 rookies in 2023. Which one will be the best in 2023? Which one will probably have the best performances? I'm not talking about points, because I mean, like, if we look at this realistically, Piastri should score the most points. McLaren probably being the most well-renowned car. At least we're going to guess for 2023 out of the Williams or AlphaTauri. Now, I think AlphaTauri is going to have an awful car in 2023, and if not the worst car in 2023. I think Logan will be close with him. The Williams car will be close. So we'll be able to get an accurate representation for those two. But Piastri will probably be ahead of them, and we'll have to go more of what type of performances can he put against Lando, and is he good enough to keep himself in that McLaren seat, and can he perform under pressure for that McLaren team? Like I said, if we're to go off of just kind of points, then obviously Piastri. But I'm talking about raw performances, who has the best positions throughout the year, depending on what car that they have, how they can perform with the car, and what is the best that they can do with that car? How do they look in F1? Are they crashing a lot? Are they being consistent? Are they having good qualifyings? Are they able to beat their teammates? Are they able to keep pace? And I'm going to rank them from 3 to 1. And starting the list, sadly, I'm going to put Logan Sargeant at number 3. Now, I'm American Serbian, and I would love for him to succeed, but I think he's going to have a tough time developing himself in the first year. I think he's going to stay with Williams, and they will give him one more chance, but he'll struggle. Alex Albon is an experienced driver. He's driven for Toro Rosso, he's driven for Red Bull, was out for a year, now he's back with Williams. But was a lot of simulator work, is an experienced driver, experienced what it was to be in a top team and the pressure of that. So now he's not under any pressure really to be in this Williams seat, just got a contract. So he's kind of driving with nothing really to lose. That's the whole point. Logan on the whole year has a 1-year contract. He has a lot to lose. If he doesn't really perform, Williams is a team with a big turnover rate. Hey, next guy's coming in. He looks like he's somebody special. They'll bring him in. Maybe Mick finds his way back into Williams. Not really back into Williams, but you get what I'm saying. Back into Formula One with Williams. So he's going to have a lot of pressure under himself. he's going to have to perform with a car, like if it's the car that they ended up having in 2022 with 0 downforce, that's a hard car to perform with. It's not that Latifi is some special driver, but I definitely think he could have put up a better fight against Alex in, let's say, the 2021 Williams, because that car was at least a little better than what this car is. This car is, and quite honestly, a heap of trash. It was great in the straights, but had no downforce whatsoever. So if the car continues to be like that in 2023 and they can't find that downforce, as a rookie, he will struggle. He will have a hard time adapting to that car, really getting to grips with that car, finding the limit with that car, seeing what he can do in qualifying. I hope he proves me wrong, but I have him at 3. I don't think that he can be better than Piastri or the Vries. Now, number 2. Now, I think this is most people's 2 and 1. It's Piastri and De Vries. I feel like Logan is the one that's kind of seen as the one that's going to do the worst, but I think it will be pretty close between all 3 of them, with the exception of 1. I think 1 will be the best, and I hope I'm right. But at number 2, I have Oscar Piastri. Now, I genuinely do think De Vries will have the best year out of the 3 of them. My logic is Oscar has a lot of testing. Don't get me wrong. He has a lot of testing, but I feel like the pressure will be a lot to deal with. And from reports and from years on of talking about that McLaren car, it is always the hardest car to drive and the hardest car to actually get to grips with. Daniel struggled with it. Lando continuously talks about, Lando's an amazing driver, so you can't really see those flaws when he's driving that car. But he continuously talks about how there's barely any front end on that car. It's a car that's not great on brakes. It takes a lot of adjusting to get used to. Carlos Sainz drove the brakes off of that car. Both of them did in that year, but both struggled to actually be able to fully perform with that car because the car is always missing something, whether it's at the back end or the front, but typically the front. They say the steering wheel is really hard to learn. It's just one of those cars that in Formula One, the team just makes it difficult for their drivers to actually learn how to perform with it. It's like a known thing that the McLaren car is hard to perform in. Now, that will play a factor. Him being young, under pressure, and Lando Norris being his teammate. Those 3 combined is why I can't have Piastri at number 1, and I have De Vries at number 1. It'll be a struggle year. I think he will find himself, and maybe in a couple years' time, if he stays with McLaren and they keep him and they believe in him, and he shows enough raw talent, which I feel like he will. I feel like he'll show enough talent to be able to be like, look, let's keep him longer. Let's see what he can do with the better car, with better performance, and so on. We shall see where Oscar Piastri's career goes, but he will not be the Rookie of the Year in 2023. And at number 1, I got De Vries, the guy that jumped into a Williams, the worst car on the grid. I'm probably the best track, don't get me wrong, for the Williams, but got points. Beat his teammates effortlessly, might I add. Probably could have made a Q3 performance if it wasn't a little mistake he made on the steering wheel just because of not really driving a Formula One car. Now, here are the reasons why I think De Vries will be better than both Piastri and Logan. First of all, it's the age. De Vries has been, in my opinion, he's been waiting for this opportunity for so long that it's come to a point it's like, hey, listen, I got nothing to lose. I'm in this AlphaTauri seat. I'm going to go balls to the wall as hard as possible and do what I can do. Show off my talents to the Formula One grid. And I genuinely think De Vries is that guy to be able to actually show his talents and maybe show himself as a top 10 throughout the year. He's had a lot of testing. He's been in a lot of multiple different cars. He's shown himself as a champ. He did well in F2. All 3 years he did really well in F2. He scores points in his debut. His test sessions were good. He tested with like every team on the field practically. He's a great driver, and I believe in him. I have a lot of belief in him over the other 2. And that alone, with the experience that he's had throughout just all his driving, will put him in number 1 for me, and I think he will be Rookie of the Year in a close 3-2-1. Genuinely, I feel like these 3 are pretty close. I don't think any of them are going to shine in comparison to the rest of the grid, but they will show themselves off. I feel like De Vries will have just as good of a year as Guan Yu Zhou did, which, in my opinion, if you didn't watch my video, I talked about Guan Yu Zhou having an amazing year, and I feel like De Vries will have something similar of that. A year with probably some mistakes, but he will learn and develop himself into an even better driver than he already is. Now you guys let me know, which rookie do you think will have the best year and who will have the best drive in 2023? Will all of them stay on the grid for 2024 or will they fail to perform? Please let me know. Leave a like on the video, subscribe It would mean the world, and peace.